Okay, so you should see the system pop through in a moment. And to kick off with, I will just give you a bit of a rundown of the software generally, just a quick overview, just some of the top tips really that um, I suggest for some of the navigation and help features, and then we'll get straight into the nitty gritty of it. Um, as I say, it's not absolutely everything that I'm covering for you this afternoon, but it's certainly a good introduction to the system. As I say, I will show you where you can get your questions answered following on from the session using our help features and using our live chat and all that kind of stuff, where they can help you out a bit more in terms of any of the other things that you might be doing on the system. So first thing you should see when you do get logged in is you've got your username in the top right hand corner. Again, just for the purposes of the call being recorded, I am using Chris's account. So um, just bear that in mind as well. When you do get logged in, it might appear a little bit differently. I'm just going to a specific site. I can't remember the one we used yesterday, but I'll just use Skirlodge. So you've got your main menu on the left-hand side, and you've got your school that you belong to or the site that you belong to in the top left corner there. If you do have access to more than one site, if you click on the site name itself, and then you'll be presented with a list that you can see here. Again, the way Chris uses the system might be a little bit different to anyone else on the call, but if you do have access to more than one site, then it's just a case of being able to change them accordingly by accessing the list here. Hopefully you understand a little bit more about that a little bit later on. So as I say, you've got your main menu here. This enables you to navigate of the system. I'll be focused on predominantly this afternoon is the business management module. It's just abbreviated to business. And within there, we've got the activities and issues modules. So I don't know if it's been explained, but in a nutshell, and if any, have at the moment the old-fashioned way on paper and pen. But this is a way for you to manage your compliance items and manage your regular jobs that are carried out, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, once every 10 years. It enables you to add evidence. It enables you to monitor costs and attach issues, i.e. any remedial work that needs carrying out. So as I say, I am just in one particular site here. When we get into the nitty gritty of it, we can go to a particular site. Anyone can volunteer theirs and we can have a look at some examples. But these are the kind of activities that you might see at your site. So don't worry too much if they do differ, because they probably will. But the way these are set up is that they are set up from a central level, so from a trust point of view, and they're distributed out to each site. So the trust will decide which of those activities they are monitoring are relevant for you. You do have the option to add your own as well. So you can add anything that you feel is useful for you. So it could be something as basic as your walk around checks, security checks, even toilets, toilet checks or cleaning, anything like that. As I say, it's anything that happens on a regular basis that's planned. As I say, we'll get more into the module and you'll understand a little bit better about how it works as well. We've also got the issues module within business management, and that is your reactive maintenance. So there's nothing there at the moment because it's not been rolled out fully yet, but this is your ticketing system basically. So sorry, it's been a long week. This is your ticketing system. So any IT related issues, any general maintenance problems, any admin related stuff. It really depends how it's going to be used and rolled out at your particular trust or site. And that's a conversation that you can have with some of your line managers. We're never 100% sure exactly how it's going to be rolled out, but the world's your oyster, really. You can use it how you want. This is for like one-off jobs sort of thing. So if you think along the lines of broken windows, turn up carpets, leaking taps, blocked toilets, so on and so forth. What I'll do when we get into it is I will use my test system and show you how it works, because there's nothing there at the moment, as you can see, which is fine. So I'll use my test system and we'll understand a little bit better about what you're seeing here and what it does. Just a couple of things to be aware of within here is if you're all standard users, and again, I'm not 100% sure what user level you'll all be, but I know yesterday it was predominantly either standard or basic. So if you're a standard user, you will see pretty much what Chris is seeing. You'll have your summary, add activities, create activity, edit multiple, and then you've got the same or similar options within issues. You've got your reporting areas as well, so like financial year costs and KPIs. I'd say that most users will see that, but if you don't worry too much. It's just because of your user level, as you see a little bit more of a restricted system. So it just means there's less to worry about, really. You've probably got enough on your plate as it is. So yeah, you've got very similar layout, as I say, and it will be very similar when you do get logged in. But if you do get stuck, please do drop us a message and we can help out, and I'll show you where you can contact us in a moment or two. What you'll often see on the left-hand side in that left-hand navigation bar is the same options are reflected along the top as well. So you've got add activities there on the left-hand side, which is also the same option along the top. You've got create activity, which is the same as the option on the left-hand side, and so on. What you'll also see is a reports button, and what that enables you to do is extract the information that you can see on the page. So if, for example, you want to download it in paper format or Word format, print it off, your upcoming activities, which we'll look at, you can do so, or you can download. A lot of the time, you can download a lot of the stuff in Excel format, and you can kind of make your own reports from there. But a lot of the stuff in here is ready-made already, and some of the reports will change based on any filters you've got in place. But I'll show you how that works a little bit later on. If you need to hide the main menu, just click the arrow up there, and then you can navigate using the pop-outs. You can use it on any device, so any modern up-to-date browser, whether it be Chrome, Firefox, Safari, it's completely up to you. We do have a couple of apps available, particularly for activities and issues. If you're interested in those, I can send some information out for you, or if there's time at the end, I can take you through the apps. So those that are interested, feel free to stay on the call, and I can take you through those. Otherwise, as I say, feel free to use it in any modern up-to-date browser. It will also work on your mobile browsers as well, on your smartphone or tablet or whatever. So you can use your normal backwards and forwards buttons on your browser as you'd expect to be able to. Just bear in mind, if you are editing stuff on a page, you just click the save or submit buttons where you see them. That's just because it doesn't save as you go along. That's by design. Sorry, the guys that have just joined, if you don't mind just muting yourselves just for now, that'll be much appreciated.
You and me, wasn't it?
Perfect, thank you. If you do have any questions, please do unmute yourselves or pop them in the chat. I'll do my best to spot them. So yeah, you can use your normal backwards and forwards buttons, as I say. Just bear in mind, you do need to make sure that you click the save or submit buttons where you see them, and I'll show you those a little bit later on. Okay, so that's a whistle-stop tour. It really is a whistle-stop tour. You'll find that all the modules work in a very similar way. So once you get used to the activities module, for example, the issues and any of the other modules that you will end up using, although they're designed for very different things, they work in a very similar way. In terms of the help features, if you do have any questions, as I say, please do use me for those questions this afternoon. But following on from the session, please do use the live chat, for example. That's just one of the help features. Any questions you do have, please do pop those in there. It's available Monday to Friday, 8 till 5. So during those hours, you can ask any questions to our support team. And there's no such thing as a stupid question. Chances are they've been asked it before, so they'll be able to get that answer for you very quickly. If not, they'll find out and get back to you at a later time. So just pop your question in there straight away. It's also available on the login screen. So if you are having difficulties logging into the system, they should be able to help you with that. But equally, if you're a little bit lost or a little bit stuck, doesn't does happen, particularly when you're brand new to the system. It can be a little bit daunting. It was for me. Then you'll probably have a lot of questions, and that's what they're there for. So you are talking to our real world support team. It's not an AI chatbot, you'll be pleased to hear, or maybe not, I don't know. But before they take over the world anyway and take their jobs away, we do have our support team in there. And again, it's available Monday to Friday, 8 till 5. So any questions you do have, please do pop those in that box. I'd also suggest just put any question in straight away. You don't bother with asking them how they are or what their weekend plans are or anything like that. They won't be upset. It just means you can also ask for an email transcript of that conversation, and the subject line of that email will be formed by whatever it is you put in there initially. So it just makes life a little bit easier when you are wanting to hunt down that email later on with that subject line. Okay, so that is the live chat. We also have, if you look to the left of your username, the help button, and within there you've got the help center. So there's numerous ways of accessing any help. Within that help center, you'll see a list of web-based articles which explains how to use a particular feature or a module generally. It will pertain to the part of the system you're looking at that moment in time. So it will automatically give you articles that are relevant for that screen that you're looking at. So it will differ. For example, if you go to the issues module, you'll see different stuff in there. And if you're in a different part of a module as well, you'll see different stuff in there, if anything. Sometimes you won't see anything in there. But if you click on any of those articles in there, it will open up in a new tab like so. And sometimes there'll be a video as well to help you. The videos are usually a couple of minutes long at most, sometimes even 45 seconds, but just brief enough to explain that feature, hopefully in sufficient detail. Again, please don't be afraid to use the live chat if you do have any other questions. But there's also, regardless of whether there's a video or not, there will be text and images like this to help out as well. They are kept up to date, but again, if there's anything that you need clarification on, please do let the support team know. What we also have within the help center is the option to send the support team an email. If you click on that, that will just open up in your default email software. And then we've got a phone number as well. And that's available Monday to Friday, 8 till 5. And last but not least, we've got a feedback option. So any feedback you have on the system, whether it be any constructive criticism, any feature requests you want to make, any design improvements you want to suggest. So, for example, it's not formatting particularly well on the device you're using, then you can tell us. Please do. Whether you think it's trivial, we don't mind. We want to know about any improvements, minor or major, that we can make for you. So please do pop any feedback you have in there. It's a free text field, so you can put War and Peace in there. It's completely up to you. The more information, the better, really. So what it does when you do submit a ticket on the feedback box is it creates a ticket on the development team's own ticketing system. So they will see all feedback that's submitted. You are quite a big trust as well. So it's escalated based on the numbers of people that offer those same feature requests or feedback. So the more the merrier, really. If it's something you feel we can offer a workaround on, please do use the live chat and we can see what we can suggest for you. But on the back of that as well, if you do want to offer feedback, please feel free to do so. And again, just make sure you do click the save or submit buttons where you see them. Okay. So that was your help features. As I say, please do ask me any questions, but if you want to go away, have a play with the system, you are bound to have a lot of questions following on from the session this afternoon as well. So please do use those. Don't forget, there's always someone that can help you. Fab. So just before we get into the nitty gritty of it, are there any questions at this point from anyone? Okay, so there's still some people trickling in, but I think Teams is doing its usual. Oh no, okay. Perfect. So what we'll do then is we'll get into the activities module and we'll kick off by looking at the summary page, which is what we're on already. Nice and handily. Does anyone actually want me to use one of their schools just out of interest, just as an example this afternoon? If you see your site in there, I should say, I can use your site. No, it's fine either way. I will just use Colomendi because I think we were using that one yesterday for some of it. So we'll just stick with that one. As I say, there will be some variations on what you see depending on the site you belong to. I was going to say that with just one in there, that wouldn't be a good example, but there's a lot in there, so that's fine. So as I say, just be mindful of what you do see on yours. There will be some differences, particularly in regard to the due dates and any of the other details against any of the activities that you are seeing in there. So within your summary page, it's your first port of call really to see anything that's up and coming or anything that's overdue. It isn't everything. You can see everything on the summary page. I'll show you where to go for that. But it's everything that is kind of imminent within the next 3 to 4 months. So you've got your boiler rooms, checks or hazard related stuff, emergency light testing, fire alarm servicing, and everything else you can see in there as well. You see these icons here. That means they are set up at a central level, so they're monitored from trust level, but you do have the option to add your own activities as well if you need to. So anything you feel is relevant for you to add, which we can have a look at, then you can do that as well. But those icons just means that those activities are monitored from a trust point of view. So anytime you complete an activity, um, the trust will be aware of it. So it's just being mindful of that, really. It's not keeping tabs or anything like that. It's just so that they can see where you are and see, if you need any extra help or if there are any issues that are flagged up as well, they can see that all at trust level. So any costs as well that you want to add to activities, that is something that can be monitored either at trust level or within the site. So we'll have a little look in a moment or two at adding an activity and then how to mark one as completed and add the evidence and all that kind of stuff. But that's your upcoming activities tab. What I'd suggest doing is making sure that when you do get logged in, you check your email notification settings. So if you click on your username in that top right hand corner and then click on my account, um, the philosophy behind the system is that you don't have to be on the system all the time. If you want to receive emails in regards to any activities that are up and coming, as I say, or any issues that are logged, which I'll explain a little bit later on, then you can set those emails up and you'll receive those as and when, basically. For activities, you will get a weekly email through and it will outline for you any activities that are up and coming within the next 2 weeks and any that continue to be overdue as well. There are a couple of exceptions to that, which I'll explain. But for your issues, I'd recommend making sure that they're all on really, because you might have a lot of issues assigned to you and you don't want to be checking the system all the time. So those emails that come through will come through straight away as soon as they're logged and you'll be aware of them. And you can access the system straight from those emails as well. So I'll explain that a little bit later on. But that is just within your user account area by clicking on your name in the top right hand corner and then my account. Okay. So for any of those activities, as I say, you will be notified. So don't worry too much about checking the upcoming activities tab all the time. The one exception to that is any activities within your weekly schedule. So anything within here will not generate a reminder. Again, it is by design. So there's a reason you've popped it in the weekly schedule. Maybe it's something you carry out on a daily basis that you've added yourself and you do it and you don't want to have those emails come through. That we get enough emails as it is. I read about 1% of mine. So, well, not my work ones, obviously, but my personal ones. So any emails you get through, we want them to be useful. So you can, anything you pop in that weekly schedule, you won't be reminded of it, but you can still monitor it on the system in the same way, mark it as completed, and add evidence and all that kind of stuff. And I'll show you how to do that as well. But you can kind of read it as do not notify. It does say weekly schedule, but it doesn't have to be stuff that happens on a weekly schedule. It could be anything, even something that happens once every 10 years. So it really doesn't matter. Next, you've got your history and audit. So anytime you complete an activity on the system, it will generate an audit trail for you, and you will be able to see all previous times that the activity was completed. At the moment, just because it's just being set up, there won't be much in here, but over time you'll see more and more, and you'll be able to access the audit trail itself, excuse me, by clicking on the eye icon. You can see any notes that were added in, any due dates that were changed, any documents that were uploaded on the left-hand side. And you can retrospectively update them as well. So if you've forgotten to add a bit of information, or you've forgotten to add a file, for instance, to an activity, whether it be a certificate or an invoice or whatever it is, again, you don't have to add files, but if you do and you've forgotten to do it and you want to go back, then you can do so using the activity history tab here. And I will show you how to add files a little bit later. So that's history and audit. Next, you've got your all activities tab, and it kind of does what it says on the tin, really. So all and every activity that you have access to. It's not necessarily that they're assigned to you, but certainly that you have access to. You'll see those within here. You've got your filters as well, so don't forget to use those, as there's quite a lot. You've got your category filters, and you do have your filters at the top as well. Again, that will vary depending on the school, depending on the site that you belong to as well. Within the tick box options on the right hand side and using the drop down, what you can do is edit some of the key details. So I've ticked 3 activities there. I can edit those 3 in terms of these overall details, like the title, description, and it's not everything, but certainly some things that you might want to do very quickly. If you need to copy an activity, you've got the little icon there, which enables you to, if you do have one that's set up at trust level, like your emergency light test, and you want your own at property level that works a little bit differently, I always say work smart, not hard. So just copy that activity and then edit it to suit your needs. And wherever you've got the pencil icon, that enables you to edit whatever it is you're looking at. Or if you click into the activity title itself, that will take you to it as well. And lastly, you've got completed awaiting documentation. This is this will do its own thing based on the options you've selected. You don't have to use this tab, but it's anything where you're waiting for paperwork to come through and you're still compliant. You still want to say that you've done the activity, but maybe you're waiting for a certificate or an invoice or whatever it is. It's out of your control, but you're still compliant. So you still want to say, yes, I did it, but I'm waiting for this paperwork. This is just to remind you that you need to add that paperwork at a later date once it arrives. And all you need to do is access the activity and upload it, and I will show you where we do that. Okay, so that is your summary page. What we'll do next is look at how to add an activity. But just before we move on, any questions at this point?
No.
Okie doke. So, just another thing I forgot to say as well. If you do need to search through any of these tabs, wherever you see this green search box throughout the system, it works in a very similar way. So just put less is more really when you're searching. It will search through all of the tabs and the titles of the activities as well as the description. So the description is the little pop-up that you can see there. So any search term you put in there will search through all of those tabs. So there's a couple of ways you can add an activity. As I say, for most of you, I would suggest you've probably got a lot on there already, but when you do want to add your own, when you get a bit more comfortable with how to use the system, in fact, it might help to add an activity because it helps you understand how it works. You can delete them once you've done so. So, it's completely up to you, but you've got 2 ways to do so. First one being add activities. What you've got in here is a list of templates, basically, or blueprints for the kind of activities that have been used usually within schools before, or we've taken them from the DFE website. So just some guidelines in terms of the kind of compliance items that would be carried out at school. So if you feel like there's any that are relevant for you, again, work smart, not hard. What you've got here is a list of templates and descriptions. If you add that activity, it will pull that through for you. And you can then adjust it to suit your needs. So if you wanted to change any of the title or wording in the description, you can. If you wanted to change the frequency, you can. So it's completely up to you whether or not you use these. When you do add them via the Add Activity button, it will pop it in your summary page. If I just scroll back up to the top, it will pop it in your summary page, and it will be within your All Activities tab. And it will just be at the top because it won't have a due date yet. So that's just one of the things to bear in mind if you do add any activities from that template, from those list of templates. So certainly have a look through. You can add the whole category as well if you need to. The other way to do it is to go to the Create Activity option. And this is your blank canvas, really, where you can just fill in the blanks and add your own activity onto the system. If you're using the templates, it will appear very, very similar when you access that newly added activity from the template. You'll just have your title and description field and a few other things already populated for you, but you can then edit them to suit the kind of activity you want to add. So at this point, does anyone have any ideas of an activity they might want to add onto their system? Again, if you think along the lines of any regular jobs that need to be carried out on either daily, weekly, or monthly basis.
One would be fire checks.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. That's great.
The fire alarm tests, and because I'm in a warehouse, I'm not in a school.
Okay, sure. Great. Perfect. Yeah, so nice and easy one. Popping that in there. Just your basic details, as I say. You've got your description field. Put as much information in there as possible because it does depend who the activity is assigned to. So it might not be assigned to yourself. It can be assigned to a different person. So as much information as possible really in there. It is a mandatory field. So you do need to complete it. It won't let you save it without it. But anything you do pop in that description will form a little pop-up, as you can see there. So nice and easy to see at a glance exactly what it is and what you'd be expected to do carrying that activity out. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I always talk in the terms of talking to schools, but I know that in your case you're not, so apologies. But it works in a very similar way. So yeah, if I say school, I don't necessarily mean it. I mean to say site. So what you're doing then is just filling in the blanks. You've got your categories as well, and that will vary depending on the site that you belong to. So we'll just put fire alarm system. That's perfect in there. The assigned to field is the person that's going to be responsible for carrying that activity out, but also the person that receives those email updates. However, that doesn't mean that no one else can access the activity. Anyone that is a standard user will also be able to manage this activity because they can see it on their system as well. So that is one thing to bear in mind, whoever you assign it to. I mean, it can always be changed at any point as well. But yeah, you'll have your list of users that are at your site within here. So if you want to assign it to yourself as well, that's absolutely fine. It works in exactly the same way. If you want to monitor any costs in relation to any activity that you've added, you know, maybe it's carried out by a third party or something, you can pop those costs in there. And then you've got your frequency. So Dave, how often is this carried out?
I do a fire check every week on different alarms.
Perfect. So I could put once a week in there. You can pop any number you want, really. So it's as flexible as you need it to be. Obviously, that's a bit of a stupid one, but you get the idea. You can put whatever you want in there. So you can change that at any point. Doesn't matter if you need to change the schedule for whatever reason, you can always do that later down the line. Your weekly schedule will pop it in the weekly schedule tab for you, as I explained at the beginning, and therefore you won't receive reminders about it. So if this is one, Dave, as you say, you do it on a weekly basis, so you know you do it. Maybe you don't want to be reminded about it, so you can tick that box, and therefore you won't have that activity included in that weekly email. It will still be on the system. You'll still be able to say that you've done it. You'll still be able to upload any paperwork if relevant, attach any issues or whatever. But it just means you're not going to be reminded that it needs to be done. Okay, the last thing to do before you set up an activity is to make sure that you've got the due date in there. So it's just setting in any due date really. And then it will base those reminders and the frequency on that due date and also what you've set in here. Again, can always be changed. If you need to change that due date down the line, feel free to do so. There might be some that you can't for those that are set up at trust level, where they might have the due date field grayed out. That is something to bear in mind. So that's set from a central level. But I would say that in most cases, you should be able to change that due date. Certainly for those that you are adding at site level, you can change them. So if you do have any suppliers that you need to add, then you do have a list here. And again, this is relevant just for this site, so it might be different for you wherever you are. But it's just a case of adding your supplier in. And then they can also be notified as well of an activity if they are, if it is carried out externally. They can receive reminders. They don't need to register with Every or anything like that. They just need an email address on the system, and they'll receive reminders in a very similar way to to whoever it's assigned to on Every itself. Okay. So that's the gist of setting up an activity. What we'll look at next is how to mark one as completed and add any evidence in or complete any checklists as well. So just before we move on to that, are there any questions on adding an activity to the system?
No.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm not going to click save on that one because I'm not going to add it. It is a live system, but as I say, just get into the habit of clicking that button. What we'll do is we'll look at an existing one you have. So when you're ready to complete an activity, you can see this one here is due today. That's perfect. So we can click into that one. I'm not actually going to update it. I'm just going to show you how it's done. You'll come down to the update activity tab, which is what it defaults to. And then you need to add in, well, you need to first of all say you've completed it or say that it's done awaiting documentation. And as I say, if you do set that, it will pop it in that summary page, as in this area up here. So pop in the date you did it. You can backdate it as well if you want to. You can future date it as well, which I don't fully understand, but you can. But yeah, just pop in the date that you want in there. And then it will tell you the next due date, and that is based on the frequency and the date that it was completed. Just bear in mind that you might need to make sure it gives you the an appropriate due date, next due date in there. If it coincides with something else, again, you can always change it, as I mentioned earlier. So you can change that due date to whatever it is you want. Okay. Any comments you need to add in? So if that due date has changed or any other information that's relevant, you can pop your comments in there, and then that will be recorded on your right hand side. That's your kind of audit trail. And then if you do need to add any files, go to the choose file option. I don't know why it always goes to that screen on my system, but anyway, you can choose any documents you have. It doesn't matter what format it is, doesn't matter how big it is, or it doesn't matter the number of files you want to add. Could be a picture of your dog. As far as the system is concerned, it really doesn't matter. So upload whatever you want. And then once you've done that, just click the save button. And then that's it, really. Jobs are good. And it will repeat forever and ever until either you retire or it's deleted from the system, whichever comes first. So it will go forever and ever, as I say. And you will see that full audit trail. Once you've completed it, you'll have another tab up here where you can see all previous occasions the activity was completed. Okay. You might have a checklist to complete as well. I won't spend too much time on that because I'm not sure that you will, but if you do, then what you'll be given is a link to a checklist, and it would just be able to tick a few tick boxes or enter a bit of text in a field, just to confirm the steps that were taken. There might not always be one though. At this point, I'll just pop into my test system. If you just bear with me 1 second, I'm just going to get logged into that, and I will show you what a checklist does look like. So just bear with me 1 second. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask away. Make sure it's behaving itself first. Just bear with me. Sorry, I'm just finding one where I do actually have a checklist because I've changed them around recently because it is a new feature. Okay. Just bear with me. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my system across. This is just works in exactly the same way as yours, but what you can see here is I've got my checklist for this particular activity, which is call point checks. So you might have, I don't know if you're going to have one or not, but they are set up at an admin level. So you'll be able to access your checklist. And then it's literally just completing the options within here. This is just, it's not a very good one, I'll be honest. It's one I set up very quickly, just as an example. But you kind of get the idea. You'll see the kind of responses that you might give, and you might have tick boxes, or you might have like a free text field or multiple choice, as you can see there. What you can also do is add notes to those individual checks, attach media, again, like we've just seen, whether it be photos or whatever it is, basically. Well, it's either PDF or image files in this case. And if you want to create an issue, which we will come on to, but if there was any remedial work in relation to one of the checks that was carried out, so again, Dave, in your example, the fire alarm checks, if there was one that wasn't working, you could log it as an issue within the checklist itself, if there was one. As I say, you can log an issue separately, which I'll come on to. And then when you're ready to complete the checklist, I'm going to make sure it's going to let me complete it. You can view your report, see the answers you gave, and then that's it really. And then you can just complete the activity. So it might complete it for you automatically, depending on how it's been set up. Otherwise, you would still need to mark the activity as completed once you've done the checklist. Okay. So just popping back into your system. If I'm in my system, it's in this the black incognito window, and if I'm in yours, then it is the turquoise or aquamarine or light blue, whatever color that is. So that's your checklist. Don't worry too much about those for now because I'm not 100% sure if they are going to be used, but if they are, it's just being mindful of that tab. Then you've got issues. So again, if there was any remedial work that needs carrying out in relation to any of the checks that you did carrying this activity out, then you can just pop it in here. And we'll come on to this in a little bit more detail later on. So I won't spend too much time on this for now, but all you need to do, again, is fill in the blanks, basically. And it will assign that issue to a certain individual that you have at your site based on the category that you've selected. But again, I will come back to this. If you do have any existing issues that you know of that you want to link to an activity for whatever reason, whether it be, again, referring to fire alarms or whatever it is, whether it's closed or not, you can add any existing issues as well. Okay. Any files that you attach at any point under the update activity tab will be listed in here for you. So any invoices, so on and so forth, will be accessible from here. You can download them and remove them as well. Okay, so that's the gist of it really for updating an activity. That's the nitty gritty. There's a few other bits and bobs I'll show you in regards to reporting and all that kind of stuff. But are there any questions from anyone on updating an activity? Okay. No worries. So, as I say, we'll just quickly whiz through the reporting areas. You've got edit multiple activities. That enables you, well, it's not reporting per se, but it enables you to manage some of the key details for activities if you want to reassign them to different people, for instance. You know, if someone's off sick or long-term leave or they've won the lottery and they're not coming back, you can assign it to different people, change some of the cost information, some of the categories, due dates, so on. You can see all of that within there. So those are all the activities you have access to. Some of them might be grayed out because they're set up centrally and they're managed centrally. So those due dates might be determined by you know, the central team. But for those which are not grayed out, you can change them. So again, it will vary depending on the user account you have. Next, you've got financial year costs. So if you are wanting to monitor costs in relation to any activities, that will pull through into here for you. So you'll see a breakdown on a month by month basis. And again, I'll just pop into my system because I do have some stuff in there. I did this morning anyway, but yeah, so you'll see a breakdown of each activity and the cost. And again, you've got that on a monthly basis. You've got your filters, so don't forget to use those. And then your KPIs or key performance indicators will outline, well, you don't need to add anything for these other than just your activities, but anytime you complete an activity, it will pull through into here for you. Hopefully your system will look a little bit better than mine. I've got a lot of red on mine, but you'll see a breakdown each month of any activity that are any activities that are due and any that have been completed. I don't keep on top of mine, as you can see, but if you do need to download those graphs, then you can. You've got the context menu there, or the burger bar, as some people call it, in the top right hand corner. You can download those as images as well. So that will reflect any filters as well that you've got. So you've got your filters up here, so you can change those. It will affect the graph, as you can see. Mine don't make too much difference because I don't actually update any of my activities really. You've got the same information in the monthly performance grid, so you'll see a breakdown there. And again, mine is atrocious of the number of times that activities were completed in that month. Your activity details gives you a breakdown of each activity and the number of times it was completed. I've done asbestos checks a lot for some reason. And then you've got activity interactions, which is your user interactions with the module. So that's people just basically interacting with activities. So updating them, editing them, marking them as completed, and so on. And again, you can download that as an image, or if you want, download the raw data in CSV or XLS format. Last but not least, you've got the reports button. So any information that you need to extract from the system itself, you've got the reports button up there. And if I zoom in a little bit, what you'll see is they are available in Excel format. You've got the X icon there, and XLSX refers to the file format it is. So I can download all activities, and that will be exactly that. It will just list all of my activities in Excel. Just one sec. As you can see there. So you'll see that in a lot of different places on the system. There are some Word reports as well, which I'll come on to in a second. I'm not going to show you every single report. I don't want to give you death by report. But yeah, If you want a report on a specific activity as well, so you want to see a bit of information on an activity itself, then there'll be a report on that page as well, and you can see the history of it. So if you want to download the audit trail, you've got that there, and that's in Word format. Again, if I zoom in, you can see there's the W icon there. So they're either in Word or Excel. So that's just one of those. And there's various others. So for example, on your summary page, you will find that again, no, wrong one, forgive me, that summary page, you'll find that it reflects the tabs that you can see there. So at this point, actually, we'll just put back into your system because there were some in there. Your upcoming activities will reflect just this tab for you. And you'll see the similar ones for the weekly schedule and so on as well. Some of them will be affected by any filters you've got on the page. Some of them won't, so just be mindful of that. Okay. Perfect. So let me just check that that I believe is pretty much everything for activities. Yeah. So just before we move on to issues, which I promise is a little bit more straightforward, this is a good introduction. It's kind of being thrown at the deep end, really, because there is quite a lot to it. But certainly do go away, have a play with it. You will probably have a lot of questions, which is perfectly normal. But do we have any questions at this point from anyone? No. Is it all making sense for you so far? Okay, see a few shaking heads. Well, hopefully, as I say, it can be a little bit daunting to kick off with. Once we get into the issues module, you'll see it is a little bit more straightforward. You do have the help center, as I say, please do use that as well. Okay, so moving on then to issues, which is your reactive maintenance as opposed to your planned maintenance. And again, I will just go into my system because I do have some stuff on there. I know you've got a couple there, but mine's a little bit more populated. So we'll just go into mine. As you can see, I do have my settings area. Don't worry about that. That's just because I'm a super admin user or an admin user. So I've got my settings, but yours works in exactly the same way. So within your summary page here, then, what you can see is a few examples of reactive maintenance that needs carrying out at my fictional site. One of them I actually prepared earlier today. It was inspired a little bit by Monty Python. So we've got my issues here. Any issues that are assigned to yourself will be listed in your My Issues tab. So again, depending on your user level, it will vary in terms of what you have access to on the issues module, but certainly any issues that are assigned to you will be in the My Issues tab. You'll have all open issues as well. And again, that will be either the same as what you see in My Issues, or you will see all issues that are relevant to the particular site. And then all closed issues. So again, you can access the full audit trail in here, and you can update the issue to reopen it as well if you need to. I'll show you how to do that in a second or two. But you can always undo anything you do on the system. So what I'll show you next is how to log an issue, and then we'll look at how that works again in terms of the nitty gritty and how those notifications work and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just pop back into your system again, because you've got your log issue page here on the left hand side. You will all have access to that, and this is where you are able to add in the details for your issue. It might vary again depending on the site you belong to, so you might see some different options in here. in terms of the options you can select in the drop downs and all that kind of stuff. But again, just as an example, this afternoon, does anyone have an idea of an issue we could log? I'm not going to add it, so it could be a silly one, doesn't matter. But any issues that we could log as an example this morning, I hope it isn't, this afternoon on column ND.
Burst water pipe.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. Great example. Thank you. So I didn't catch you said that, but that's yeah, another great example. So again, just filling in the blanks like you do within activities, and you've got your description field, title, raised by category and so on, which are all mandatory, indicated by the asterisk. So put as much information there as possible, again, for the person that's responsible for remedying that problem. You've got your location, that is a free text field, so you can put in whatever you want. What we'd recommend doing is putting in your location in the title as well. So it does help you know exactly where it is, because that location field, it's not mandatory, so a location won't always be put in there, but you can filter based on the title, and therefore you can filter based on the location if you do put that in there. So that is one thing we recommend, just because that location field is not mandatory, and that's by design at the moment. So okay, so again, it's just filling in the blanks. You've got your category, just be mindful of that. It will vary depending on the site you belong to, and it will affect who it's assigned to as well. So you will see that assigned to individual changes. And again, that's part of the setup. So if you feel like any of that needs changing, you can just change the assigned to person. You've got the due date as well, so that will always default to today, which is clearly, well, I don't know, I guess it's not realistic for a burst water pipe, but again, you can adjust that due date, and it can always be changed at any point down the line as well. Priority, high, medium, and low, that's what it says on the tin. Substatus, I don't know if you'll be using this. This is really just for the person that's responding to the issue, which we'll look at in a second. And it enables you to give very quick updates in terms of where you are, in the progress of fixing that problem. And then estimated costs, if you want to monitor those as well, you can. Any files you want to upload, again, literally it can be anything, so it doesn't matter. You can use the apps as well, in which case you can take a photo on your phone, for instance, or your tablet, and upload it straight from there. Or any files that you have on that device, you can just use the app as well. So it makes life a little bit easier if you do want to take a photo of it, for example, just to use the app. Yeah, you've got start date and time as well. That's just when you're updating the issue, when you're fixing it. If you want to record how long you don't have to, it's not a mandatory field, but if you do want to record how long it's taken to fix an issue, then you can do that within there. Okay, so that is pretty much it for logging an issue. So we're nearly there. Thank you for bearing with me on this grey, dreary Friday afternoon, or at least it is where I am. Great in time for the weekend. But any questions at all on logging an issue?
No.
Oh, okie doke. Excellent. So what we'll do then is we'll look at how you respond to an issue. I can't do it on yours because you don't have any, but I'm just going to pop into mine again and just very quickly log that. Don't worry too much about what you see on mine, because I do have different settings, so just bear with me. Just going to assign it to me. If you want to assign issues to yourself, that's absolutely fine. Just going to save that. So as soon as you log that issue, whoever you've assigned it to will be notified straight away via email. They'll have a little notification that comes through from system@weareevery.com, I think it is, and it will give you the title and the description and possibly the ID number if applicable, and then you can click in straight to the system as well. As far as I remember from the email itself, it's been a while since I've seen one, but as far as I know, you can click straight into the issue, and then all you need to do is add in a response. Sometimes you can set up auto replies, so as soon as an issue is logged, you can have it so that it sends an auto reply straight away saying issue logged and received, and whatever else it is you need to say. But you've got your options to respond to the issue in here. Sorry, just quickly, I'm going to check again on column ND because it might, you don't have any substatuses, but for some of your sites, you might have some substatuses in there. So you can see on mine, I've got just a few in there. For example, you could just say being worked on, submit that response, simple as that. Goes to the person that you've assigned it to, says this issue is being worked on. No need to question it. It's there in plain English. So if you do need to add any further information in though, you can use that response field. You can say, for instance, you could add in well, it will be admin users, but if you do have any substatuses to choose from, as I say, you can expand on what they say. So maybe it's a contractor in this case. And again, if you've got a supplier that you want to choose from, it's a case of choosing them from the list here and then submit response. So again, if it was myself that logged the issue, I will get an email through as well saying issue, ID number ending 3623 has been updated, and it will tell me the response within that email. But I can also come onto the system and check on the right-hand side what that response is as well. And then it's just a case of going through and adding various different responses in. If you want them to take a photo, for instance, they can, and then they can upload it as well on their part of the system. So it works both ways. And then when you're finally ready to close it, select the right option, add in the details that you need if you need to, and then you can at any point reassign it to someone as well. So if it has gone to you by mistake, you can always assign it to a different user that you have on your system. Any files you need to upload, again, can be anything and everything. So I'm not going to add it because it might take a while to upload on my inadequate internet, but any files you do upload will be in your attached files tab. So that is for the person, if they've used the app to take a photo, for example, you'll see that in the attached files tab. When you upload an invoice or whatever, that will be there in the attached files tab. Any changes that are made, so any responses that are recorded or any substatuses that are changed, or if the due date is altered, that will be recorded on your audit trail. So if multiple people are accessing an issue, for example, and you're not sure what's happened, if multiple people are changing it, then it tells you exactly who did it and when, and what they did. So again, there's no need to chase people down corridors or whatever. It's all there for you. Okay. So that is pretty much that for issues. Any questions at this point on updating an issue? No. Okay. So then, just to finish off, you've got your reporting. So actually, let me just close that. Oh, it doesn't matter. Just stick on my system. Again, just because you don't have any at the moment. So if you do want to record costs against your issues, it will pull through from that field we looked at earlier. And you can see it's very similar to activities. So Again, you've got KPIs. Again, very similar to your activities. So you can drag over an area like so, zoom in, you can download that. And it's your logged issues versus closed issues on a monthly basis. And lastly, your issue interactions as well. Once again, you've got your reports button at the top, so don't hesitate to use that. You want to download all your issues in Excel format, that's there for you. Maybe you want to download the monthly performance grid. That will just be in Excel. You can then work with the magic of Excel, as I call it, and then just kind of make your own reports from there, whatever it is you want to do with it. And then within your sorry, back on mine, within your summary page, again, there's some quite useful ones. So for example, my issues, that's in Word format. It will generate it on the fly for you. So as long as you've kept your system up to date, those reports will be up to date. If you've got any filters as well, in some cases, it will give you a report based on the filters, but not always. It depends on the one you're downloading. And as you can see there, not only does it include all of your all your issues, it includes all of the audit trail as well. So you can kind of see everything at a glance. Okay. So I think that is going to be pretty much that. Let me just double check. Yeah. There's a very specific list that Laura sent through in Excel. And again, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I do like a good spreadsheet when Excel decides to work anyway. So I think that's going to be pretty much it. Yeah. So we do have sort of 20-ish minutes left. If anyone's got any final questions, they have, or I'm happy to take you through the apps if you feel that would be interesting, or I can send some information out for you on the apps. But we can use this opportunity to go through anything else or any final questions you've got. Okay, does it all look like it's going to work for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Brilliant. Smashing.
Hi.
Yeah.
So who can put the actual jobs on there? Do they have to have every?
They do need to have every, yeah. So they would need a user account, and in terms of whether it's an activity, they would need to be like basic or above to add an activity. But anyone can do that pretty much, as I say, depending on their user level. If you mean it in terms of issues, then it depends how it's set up at your company. But again, it can be pretty much anyone that can log an issue as well, but they would need a user account. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, no worries. Any other questions at all? Anything you need me to recap? No. Okay. Was anyone interested in looking at the apps at all? No, that's fine. If you're interested, you could get some resources from us. We can send those out for you. But I certainly recommend familiarizing yourself with the desktop version of the system first before you start using the apps. Again, you might not even have your logins yet, so don't run before you can walk. But the apps are available on Apple or Android. So if you search for Every Activities, if you look for our logo, or Every Issues, they are two separate apps, so they relate to the two modules we've looked at this afternoon. If you download them, you should be able to manage all your activities and issues within there as well. But as I say, that will come in time. And if you do want any help on that, then please let us know. So thank you for your time this afternoon, guys. Hopefully it's been useful for you. As long as you've learned something, then that's the main thing. Did anyone want a copy of the session recording sent to them at all? No?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind one. That's Dave at Camp Beaumont.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. If you don't mind popping your email in the chat, I can send it to you
Yeah.
directly. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. Otherwise, I'd send it to Laura. Anyone else that wants them, please get in touch with Laura. But yeah, if you want to receive a copy of the recording, please pop your email in the chat now. Or as I say, you can get it from Laura. What I'll also do is I will send a feedback link. Well, I'll send that to Laura and anyone else, as I say, that does pop their email in the chat. It's just feedback based on your experience this afternoon on training itself. We do welcome any feedback you have, as I say, whether it's in regard to the system itself or the training experience. So please do complete that if you do get chance. No pressure, but yeah, would be very much appreciated. And yeah, if you do have any questions, please do use the live chat or the help center, and they'll be more than happy to help. But yeah, other than that, guys, you're free to go. So enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Have a good
Mike.
weekend.
Thank you.
No worries. My pleasure. Nice to meet you all. Take it easy.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.